Uh, Hello, David.
Hi, how are you, Anita? How's it
I
been?
am good. How about you?
Very good. I'm in New York City, so
Oh, you are?
yeah,
Well, that's nice.
yeah. This we're having a retreat this week, so I'm up here for that.
Oh, good. All righty. Well, we're delighted that you're able to join us today. I think I forgot to look and see how many people have registered, but I think it's probably a huge number.
Okay, well,
We
that's
we are
cool.
now regional, so
Right.
we cover 7 counties.
Yeah, so I'm planning to do the basic intro hour-long class today.
That'd be great.
And then next Wednesday, do we still have
Um, the
the how to start a nonprofit in Ohio, or what is going on with that?
um, yeah, actually, I think we have you down as on the as a grant writer in the grant writer section. I don't think we have you scheduled for next week.
Okay. Well, that's that.
So
I didn't have it on my calendar, and I'm like, is that
yeah,
happening? Am I doing that? I wasn't sure.
yeah. No,
But
I
if,
don't think
if
so.
I am, just let me know if that's something.
Okay. No,
Well,
I'm pretty sure we just have you for the grant
yeah,
uh
that's fine.
session. So okay. Uh how are we doing? We got 7 minutes left. So
Yeah, that's fine.
we are live streaming on
Right.
YouTube,
Okay.
and we will put this on our website as well. So actually our these recorded sessions on our website are just such a great resource for our clients.
Yeah.
They really, especially the nonprofit, it's amazing. I can never figure out why so many people are interested in starting nonprofits.
They think it's going to be easier, and they think well they think they can do it and work at the same time, which
Yeah,
maybe is
I know.
practical,
It's,
but
yeah, they all think they're going to get grants. So that's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, this is kind of a rude awakening sort of training, but I think
Yeah,
we need to hear it. It's meant to be that way a little bit.
I get a lot of clients wanting to start group homes.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's a lot of walk-ins that talk about that. It's like, I have this place and a couple people and everybody needs help. And I'm like, that's all true.
Mhm.
It's not a one-step process, and
No.
it's
And
not easy.
when you ask them how much money they have to invest,
Hmm.
clearly, very quickly, they understand it's a challenge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, so how have things been going with you?
Doing pretty well. Yeah, I've been extremely busy this spring. Like it's not even spring yet, and I've already been busy.
And although today here the weather's in the 70s.
I hear that it's raining and it's like 50 degrees in New York. It's just ugh. I'm like, I thought I was going to get the same weather that you're getting in Cleveland.
They'll get it tomorrow,
I hope
usually.
so. I could really use it
How long are you there for?
until Thursday.
Oh, okay. So you should get a couple good days.
I hope so. I hope so. They did say that there's going to be a lot of rain around, and it's very foggy and
Do you have any free time while you're there?
a little bit, mainly in the evenings. So they're doing sort of bonding things and getting together because we don't see each other very often, and
Yeah.
our team almost never sees each other. So this is the way that we do that.
That's good. Yeah, we try to have like quarterly in-person meetings because especially for new people, it's really hard to get to know their
Yeah,
fellow workers.
yeah. Oh, and it's so important for SCORE for you guys to see each other.
Right.
Do you still have, is your office still in downtown Cleveland in Playhouse Square?
Um, it's there, but because we were in the same suite as the Small Business Administration
Right.
district office. So they're still there, and we do have a space, but we basically have been doing all of our mentoring online.
Yeah. That's the way everybody seems to want it.
Well, it's just so much more convenient for everybody.
No parking, no driving, no dealing with
Exactly.
that.
And although there are some things that it's just so much better to do in person. Um, but, and we are doing some in person,
Yeah,
but,
it's, I mean, it's, I do trainings still. I did a live training. I did a grant maker program
mhm,
2 weeks ago and a live training last week. And it's, I mean, the grant maker train thing had like 100 people. The live training had four, and it's
yeah.
like, I'm not
Well,
sure
that's,
what
yeah,
is the right time and whether people want to
that,
go on.
that's what happens.
Mhm.
We've done quite a few hybrids and we get many more people online than we get in person.
Yeah.
So kind of
Or people think they're going to go to the in-person and they're like, is that going to be recorded? Are you going to do, well, that's not
exactly.
how that works.
Yep,
So,
that's right.
so you have some slides to start with and then,
Yeah, I just have the score slides and then I'll
okay,
end those and let you have sway. Uh,
okay.
so it'll only take me a couple minutes to go through them.
Okay, and then I am going to try and end a little bit before 1. And
Okay.
there'll be questions. And if there are additional questions that come in, please don't hesitate to share my contact.
Okay. No, we definitely will.
Okay.
Uh,
And I
so,
have an evaluation form on this deck.
okay.
Um, if you don't mind, if I send you the link to it, would you be able to share it?
Yes, we certainly could. We also do send out a survey.
You do. Okay.
Yeah. So we could just send you the results of that
Yeah, that
survey.
would be fine with me. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. Then that's what we'll do.
Okay.
So,
I won't worry about it then. And if they fill out my survey and your survey, it doesn't matter to me. Uh,
okay.
but I don't want to get in the way of your survey.
Okay. So I'll just send you ours then.
Okay. That sounds
All
good.
righty.
Whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay, I am going to start the webinar and see who comes on. Good afternoon to those of you who are just joining us. We'll be waiting for a few minutes to let everybody log on and then we'll get started. I think we'll go ahead and get started with the score slides. And so welcome to everybody who's agreed to join us today for this webinar. We're talking about are you ready to start a nonprofit? And hopefully you'll come away with some good information. But let me first tell you a little bit about SCORE. So SCORE is the largest network of free volunteer small business mentors in the nation. And so no matter what stage your business is, we have somebody who can help you. In fact, not only will our local chapter be able to help you, but we have access to all 10,000 plus mentors across the United States. So if you have a business that we can't help you with, we can find somebody else who will. Our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities. We do this through mentoring and education. We hope that every person gets the support they need to thrive as a small business owner. And we also know that small businesses drive our nation's economy. Over 95% of businesses are small businesses. So you create more than 50% of the jobs and the wealth of our nation, and particularly in Cleveland in the last several years, because a lot of small businesses have moved into downtown Cleveland, the economy here has really improved. We have all types of entrepreneurs as our clients, minorities, women. Over 50% of our clients are women, and about 10% are veterans. Our code of ethics requires that we sign an annual code, and we're not permitted to make money from our clients, and we can't use our clients or our member database for any reason. And any of the information that you provide to your mentor is confidential and won't be shared. This is a snapshot of our website. If you go here, you can get a local mentor. You can look at our workshops, both recorded or live. We have a lot of local resources, something about our community partnerships. So when you have a chance, go look at our website and take advantage of the vast resources that are there. So I am going to stop sharing and turn this over to David Holmes, who we're very fortunate to have today. David, I think you can tell them a little bit about yourself and about Candid, and you can share your screen, and I'm going to back out.
No, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me today. Hi, I am Dave Holmes. I am with an organization called Candid, and I work in their division of education, their equitable access division. So I teach classes all over the country, and I'm headquartered in the Cleveland area. So I'm very happy to have you guys join today, and those of you watching the recording as well. There is a little bit of a feedback at the very end, but I would say that for this particular training, you want to respond to the feedback, the survey that SCORE is sharing with you. But I want to tell you a little bit about Candid if you don't know. Candid is an organization that was formed out of two other organizations about 5 years ago. Foundation Center, which had been around for about 70 years, collecting information on grant making and the different things that private philanthropy do. We have a database called Foundation Directory, which helps you find grant opportunities. And we still do that. 5 years ago, we partnered with another organization called GuideStar. GuideStar is a place where you can go to get information on any nonprofit in the United States, including when you form your own nonprofit. any 501c3 organization, a charity in the United States, is listed on GuideStar. And together we have all this information on grant makers and all this information on nonprofits, and we try to make it available to anybody who wants to learn about where money goes, where it comes from, how do you get access to it, how do you run your organization successfully, what can you learn about the nonprofit world and the funding world. All of those things are definitely part of the things we care most about. We have regional offices. I have an office in Cleveland that I am in every so often. You can make an appointment to see me. And by the way, my email address, david.holmes@candid.org, is up there in my picture if you want to get that. And Anita, you can also forward any questions that you come directly to me. I do a lot of one-on-one kind of consultations and information. But we also have over, now that number is a little low. We have over 1,200 locations in the United States and Mexico where you can get free access to the resources that Candid publishes. We otherwise sell access to our foundation directory and to our GuideStar subscription. But if you go to any of these locations, including quite a number in Northeast Ohio, throughout the state of Ohio, you will be able to find free assistance from people who have been trained in using our tools. So if you have any questions about that, take a look at candid.org/find us, and you can see where we're located. This training that I'm going to be going through here today is about starting a nonprofit, and hopefully it will give you a good sense of the kind of things that you need to do a nonprofit. It's different in every state, but there are certain commonalities, and I'm going to be going over those commonalities and making sure that you understand them. I'm also going to talk to you about a tool that we've created at Candid that might help you. If you are in the very beginning stages, if you're learning where you want to go and what you want to do, this tool, the Nonprofit Startup Assessment Tool, will be a very good, and it's totally free, by the way, free from home, good tool that you can use. And hopefully I'll recommend a lot of different resources that you might use throughout this entire process. And remember, you're getting the recording of this, you're getting the slides of it, so you'll be able to review it. If I say something and you didn't catch it, you can go back to it. Well, the first thing I usually talk about, because not everybody who goes to SCORE or not everybody who is thinking about starting a nonprofit really knows what that means. So a nonprofit organization, according to the IRS, is an organization that is set up for specific charitable purposes. So you start up a charity and it's focused on providing food for the hungry, or providing after-school programs, or providing senior services. It's set up for one or more charitable purposes, and it doesn't benefit the people who create it. It's not meant to be something where you start it and you put in some time and then your shareholders get you additional money and you get payoffs from investment. It's not that kind of thing. It's meant to be money that is paying for the people that work there, but all of the other money, all the rest of any dividends that you would earn or profits that you would earn will get put back into running that charitable purpose. It's also set up with the understanding that it won't influence legislation. It's not meant to be something that you can start in order to change and lobby for a particular person. You can be involved in advocacy for different issues, but you can't say, vote for this person because they support these issues. That's outside of what a nonprofit should do. Now, there's lots of other rules for 501c3 organizations. And the best place to go if you are looking to find all of the technical stuff, the IRS stuff, is to go to the IRS's website, irs.gov. And there's a section there specifically for charities and nonprofits. And most of what I'm going to tell you about in this section is specifically drawn from that. But they do have information on how to start a nonprofit and the processes that you need to go through. But it isn't a one-step thing. And as you see from this list, this fits all on one slide, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of different things that you would need to do. But this is the technical stuff. This is, in order to become a legal nonprofit, a 501c3, which is the division of the tax code that is for a public charity, You need to do these things. You need to have a board of directors. A board of directors is who owns that nonprofit organization. And sometimes people stumble right at that first bit because they're like, well, it's my idea. I want to run this organization. I want it to be mine. And the thing about creating a public charity means you have to share you can be on the board of directors, but at least in the state of Ohio, two other people have to be on that board too. And those two people can outvote you on different things about how the organization is run. Normally they don't, but you have to have a board of directors as the people who are actually making the decisions, including the hiring and firing of the person in charge. There's also a requirement that you have bylaws and a structure and board policies in order to incorporate on the state level, and each state has a slightly different set of requirements. You have to create basic bylaws, meaning the rules about how the organization is run, and when the board meets, how many people are on the board, those kind of basic structural information that has to be filed with the Secretary of State's office to incorporate in the state you're in. So the state of Ohio charges, I can't remember what the charge was. It was $99 for a while. I wonder if it's still that same amount. But you would incorporate with the Secretary of State's office, and then you could become a nonprofit on the state level. But there's more. You need to do more things. You need to, if you want to incorporate on the federal level and get the ability to take donations that are tax exempt, you have to go a little further. You get an employee identification number from the IRS, and you file for federal tax exemption to get the charity status. Now that is not that single line there. That's a long process because the Form 1023, there's an easy version of it, there's a longer version of it, but it is a process where you submit a lot of information to them and you pay a fee, which can be upwards of $850, depending on the size of the organization. And then you need to go through the process of being approved by the IRS before you can then start operating as a public charity. And sometimes it was taking before COVID, it was taking a lot less time to get that incorporation done. It was taking, for some people, it was taking 6 months or less to get that process. Now, since COVID and since there's been a backup of information, I've heard that it can take up to 18 months, maybe longer, to get all of that process through the IRS. Some of the things that you get by starting the process means that you could start to get tax-deductible donations backdated to when you started it. That's a part of the legal elements of it. By the way, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to tell you, be able to break down some of those important things. But, and by the way, there is also going to be a chance at the end for you to ask any questions that you have. So you might want to have them or submit them, and then we can talk about them at the end. That tax exempt status takes a while to get, but at the end of it, you're there with several pieces of paper that says you've incorporated on the national level, you are a tax exempt organization according to the IRS, a 501c3, and you're a charity. You're able to operate. But that isn't the whole story. I mean, the reason why we teach this class is to talk about the other things that you need to know about if you're going to start a nonprofit. A lot of people concentrate on the legal elements because they're challenging and because it takes some time. It's always great to work with a lawyer to do that stuff, by the way. But once you get it done, there's more to it. There's more things that you need to come up with. And all of these things that are listed here are elements of the plan to provide the best information to anybody who is willing to support you about how the organization goes. And I see a question in the chat that's come in about, do Ohio residents, members of the board need to be Ohio residents? I don't believe that is a requirement. I'm not a legal expert on the state of Ohio, but generally they just need to be part of the organization. Yeah. You incorporate the company, the element of the company in the state. that you start in, but the people that are running it don't necessarily need to be. But there's all these elements that you need to think about when you are doing the planning for creating a nonprofit. And I'm just going to go through them all because sometimes you forget them. You forget that that's also something that you have to do. Many people say, well, I want to start a nonprofit, and they think of it as something that they can do sort of, well, when they get the time, whereas, as a sort, it's a lot easier than starting a business. And I would have to say, no, it's not any easier than starting a business. It is starting a business. So think about all these different things as you go through. The structure of a nonprofit is built around a mission. And the mission, as the definition here says, it's the thing that communicates the nonprofit purpose, the groups it serves, and how it plans to do so. Somebody should be able to look at your mission, and a lot of people do when they're deciding whether or not to fund you, whether or not to support you. Should be able to look at your mission and see, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? What are the things that you try to do? We teach literacy to third graders in the greater Cleveland area. That's a mission. It's not horridly specific. Sometimes it should be a little bit more specific about what you're doing day to day, but it should summarize everything that you are likely to do. The mission statement should be the summary of everything that your organization does, so that if you look for funding and somebody is looking to support you, they can look at your mission and understand this is what the money is going to go toward. One danger of creating a nonprofit and doing it hurriedly is sometimes you create a mission and then you decide you want to do some more things that don't fit within that mission. And that's bad. That's called mission creep or mission drift, that funders, sometimes you see a funder and they're going to give money for one thing and you don't really do that, but you're going to change like your mission a little bit to adjust it. And that's where you start to drift away from the purpose of your organization. The mission should be the purpose. Now, there are other elements that go behind that mission. One of them is a vision. Vision is often the answer to the question, what would the world look like if you finish your mission? If you are able to accomplish what you need to get done? The vision would be a world where every child can read at the third grade level, where no child in Cleveland goes hungry at the end of the day. That's not something you're going to accomplish tomorrow. It's not something that you may ever accomplish, but it's what you're using to lead what you do. And it's derived from the values. We teach at Candid, we work a lot with people that are looking to get grants because we have a database of grant opportunities. And one thing we underline is that the values, the beliefs that your organization holds, we believe that every child should be able to read. We do believe that no child should go to bed hungry. We believe in a particular issue. We believe that all animals should have the same rights as humans, for example. That's just a made-up one. The values that you believe in, that's what you're basing that mission and vision on. And it should come out pretty clearly in when somebody looks at the mission and vision. It's also what funders have behind the scenes. People give back, people make donations because you connect with them on a value level. They value that all animals should be treated well. You value that. They're going to support you. So the values are baked into all the different things that you do. And it should be something where it's pretty well known what you're going to be doing, because just because you serve youth and just because you work in Cleveland doesn't mean you share the same values for everybody who serves youth and serves Cleveland. It should be something where you describe those values through your mission and vision in a way that somebody understands that, when you say you want to work with youth and they say, how do you do it? And I'm like, we want to make sure they all have a voice. That's a bit different by saying we want to make sure we punish the ones that are being bad. There's a big difference in that, and it's based on the values that you hold. All of those are really how you link up with potential supporters. So if you haven't done this, I'm not going to ask you to do it here because we don't have too much interactivity in this training, but I'm not going to ask you to do it here, but you may want to sit down, and if you haven't started this for your nonprofit, you maybe started thinking about a mission, But these elements are really the things that you're going to use when you start to fundraise, when you start to write requests, grant requests, or donor request letters, those kind of things. That's all material that you're going to be using. And everybody you get on your board, you get running your organization, should share those values. They should be able to say, yes, I agree with that. That's why I'm part of this organization. The other thing that you do early on is to understand the world that you are working in, the environment of the nonprofit. And that is simply who else is doing the kind of work that you're doing. And it's sometimes there is nobody. There's nobody that's similar to you in terms of what you want to provide. But I have heard from a lot of people that are starting nonprofits, people walk in and they say, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to provide residential care for people with families in the hospitals. And I said, well, that's really terrific. Is it anything like the Ronald McDonald House? Because that's what the Ronald McDonald House does. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that because there's one organization doing something very similar that you couldn't do it. But you need to think about what makes you distinct. Because a funder will say, why should I fund you, this new organization, when, for example, the Ronald McDonald House is around? How are you different from them? Maybe you work with a different population. Maybe you specialize in a particular issue or disease or something. There may be a successful business model that you're modeling this on, but are you duplicating somebody else? There's nothing wrong with duplicating other things that are going on. It's when you're duplicating exactly this service area, these people, this type of service, a funder is going to probably go with the established organization. So think about what makes you distinct. What makes you indispensable to the community? Because we tend to look at it from funders' ideas, and funders want to invest in things that will make a change in the community. So when you say what you do, the funder is going to immediately be thinking, oh, is this something that absolutely needs to happen? Is it indispensable for the change, this kind of change to happen in the community? So an environmental scan, by the way, one more thing about that. When you're doing it, you really need to know who all is operating in your region. A great resource that I use for that is the 211 service. It's the first call for help service in Greater Cleveland, but it's a nationwide service, usually run by the United Way or in cooperation with them, where if you need a particular nonprofit, you can get a referral to that nonprofit from the people that you call. You can also use it. Sometimes you can use their website. Sometimes you can do it by phone and find out who else is similar to you. You can do this on Google. You can use GuideStar, which is part of Candid. You can go to guidestar.org and look up nonprofits. But it's always important to know what makes you distinct from the other organizations similar to you. Because as you go on, you're going to be asked to become very clear about those distinctions. Okay, so you're starting to think about starting your nonprofit. You have a clear vision and mission, what you're going to do. You need a team to do this work. And I would love it if the easiest thing to do would be to, you become a nonprofit, then you write a grant, and that grant will pay for everybody, all your staff members. But it doesn't work that way. Most of the time when you start a nonprofit, you are building it from yourself and your support, your own personal support, and the board members, the people that you get to volunteer to be a part of your organization. They join with the understanding that they are going to be supporting the organization, not getting paid, but donating to the organization and doing a lot of the work, thinking about how the organization is run, dividing up the things that you don't have the money or the staff to do. You can find out a lot of great information about starting a board, including the structure of it, including how it works and why it's done a particular way by going to boardsource.org. That's the national authority on nonprofit boards. You can learn a lot of information about how big the board should be, how do you create bylaws for a board, which is the operational structure. And we had that question already in the chat, like how often should the board meet? Quarterly is a great way to do it. You may choose to make it a little bit different than that, but you can find out great rules and great information from boardsource.org. Now later, as you become able to pay them, you may be hiring staff members. Probably the first staff member is the president. That might be you that are starting the nonprofit. But you have to be able to continue to work with them. It's unlikely that you're going to be hiring all your staff at first. It's going to be over time. There might be other people. A board is like the chief volunteers for a nonprofit, but most nonprofits, especially early on, run with a lot of volunteer help. And maybe the person doesn't have enough time to be on your board of directors. Maybe they can give other kinds of volunteer help, advising help, and assistance in getting the organization going. You want to partner with as many different people, and that includes larger organizations, like partnering with a place for space or partnering with a place for promotional purposes. That's how nonprofits work. They work in collaboration and combination with other places. We work at Candid with SCORE. We don't teach people one-on-one. We don't mentor people on how to start a nonprofit, but we do teach and collect this information and share it with the mentors and share it with SCORE so that you get some information from them. And they pull in information from other places like us. Okay. Let's imagine you have the basic structure of your organization. You've done the legal stuff. You're going to be talking a lot about the need. The need in the community is something that you really have to get fixed on. Because when I've worked in nonprofits, I work for one now, but I also have been on the boards of numbers of nonprofits. And it's often what you're thinking about is the need that your organization has. We need to get enough money to hire a staff. We need to get better computers for our organization. But when we say need, we don't mean that. We mean, what is the need going on in the community that your organization is set up to respond to? And that is the purpose for the organization. It's the basis for writing any requests for support. It's based on that mission that you have. You're responding to that need. What you're doing is to respond to the problem, the issue in the community. A lot of the children are not reading at grade level. Children are not receiving vaccinations. Children are not getting the medical service. There's younger mothers have a lot of difficulty with their pregnancies. What is it that you're responding to, and how can you back that up? What details do you know about that need? Because that's how you're going to be targeting your information, and that's how you're going to be asking for funding. If you can't explain the problem, the issue, what people can't do or are trying to do and they're unable to do, that's going to be insignificant. It's going to be uninteresting to funders. They want to answer to a need. Excuse me for 1 second while I try not to sneeze. Okay, I think I'm all right. Move on from there. The need is what you also design your programs and services around. So you have a need that you know about in the community. You backed it up with stats. You understand how it works. Then you're going to be planning to do programs and services that address that need. And you need to talk about how you're going to address the need with specific ideas of what you're going to accomplish. And if this seems similar, if you've ever taken a grant writing class, and it seems like I'm talking about the same things, I am talking about the same things. If you don't have clear goals and objectives, meaning broad senses of what you want to achieve, and then specific measurable changes that you are going to bring about, we are going to make sure that 100 children receive nutritional meals 3 times a day for 1 year. That's a measurable objective that you can use to create your organization. Some people ask for what's called a logic model, which is a more detailed version of what are you going to start with? What do you need to do it? What are the things you're going to do? And then what are the changes or the outcomes and outputs that you're going to have in the community because of what you did? But that's going to be something that people are going to be asking you about, and you're going to need to be clear on them. Specifically, how are you going to measure success? It would be nice to just go out and get a grant from some organization and not have them ask, well, what'd you do with the money we gave you? But that's not the way that it usually happens. What usually happens is that they give you a grant and they expect you to report on what you did with that money and exactly who was helped. It's a return on investment. They're investing in you and they want to get a return. They want to see that you made the difference that you set out to do. So you need to know how to measure success. And sometimes that's tricky if you're new to the program, if you've never done this before. I always talk to other organizations that are working in the field, maybe not doing exactly what I do, but I want to know how they measure, how they talk about success. When you are creating your programs and services, you always have to think, not only am I going to do this, but I'm going to be able to measure how well it worked. Here's some of the other things that you have to think about. And finances and fundraising, I've been talking about this kind of already. And some people have a lot of hard problems with this because, if you haven't done the work before, it's not all that clear what your budget is going to be. What do things cost? Are you paying particular staff people? That's part of your budget. What are the equipment that you need? Do you need a location to do this in? Is any of this being donated to you? Because that often is the way new nonprofits get started. They don't get a building. They don't get a grant to pay for a new building. But they do share some space in another office, or maybe they get assistance with renting a space temporarily. You need to think about what things are going to cost and come up with a number that adds up to your annual budget. And you also have to have a matching column of income. How are you going to pay for this? I would love to be able to say, and when we were back as the foundation center, I got this question an awful lot. I would love to be able to say that there's foundations out there that will pay for everything. Well, it's not true that foundations will be the go-to place, particularly with a new organization. Foundations are investing a lot of the times in changing, making things different, and getting things going. But they don't always like to give to organizations that don't already have some money. More likely, you're going to be getting money from your board, from individuals that are inspired by what you do. Maybe you have an event. Maybe you do some crowdfunding using a crowdfunding source like GoFundMe. Maybe you're doing something where you're looking for donations from a particular group. Government funding, foundation funding, that often takes a while to get tied into. And you need to sort of start doing something a lot of the times before the funders will give to you. The other thing you have to think about is, where are all the most likely sources of funding for what we do? A lot of people forget that you could charge for services that you provide. It's okay for a nonprofit to charge for things. Nonprofits do it all the time. Theaters do it, hospitals do it, schools do it. That's not unusual, but it doesn't make sense for everything. Homeless services, you don't really charge the people that you're serving. It's not something that's practical to do. We have a class that's a free class called Introduction to Fundraising Planning that's specific to nonprofits that you may be interested in taking. By the way, all the classes that Candid offers, except for one long detailed one, are free. And I will tell you on the Candid site where you can find these classes. But think about where you plan to get most of your funding, because you're going to have to be able to share a budget, even if it's an estimated budget, with the potential sources of those funding. You also have to think about, how do I make sure that I keep track of the money? There's certain procedures that any businesses are going to put in place, and nonprofits, because they're run oftentimes by volunteers and board members, you don't just want one person who is asking for the money, getting the money, cashing the checks, depositing the money, accounting for the money, and reporting on that. You can see how that could be, if that person is not highly trustworthy, that could wind up being a really big problem. So what are the procedures that you have in place and the infrastructure to make sure that you have checks and balances on how the money is handled? So let's imagine you're doing really great. You have this great vision, you have this program that's very clear, it's getting a lot of support from all these different sources. And it would get more if you could promote it. Marketing is something that a lot of people think is like a magic. You know, if you're not a marketing person, sometimes it's like, oh, well, all you have to do is tell people and they'll come to something. It's not usually how it works. Sometimes marketing is about reaching the community, not just by, you know, printing a whole bunch of letters and sending them out to people or putting a big billboard up or something like that. Reaching the community often means partnering with people that are already in the community. Just thinking about a program that was for individuals that are older men it's a program that serves older men that have not really taken care of their heart. And how do we get the word to this? Well, the partnerships that they devised in order to support this program involve where these older guys go. Where are they hanging out? It's golf courses, barbershops, places in the community where you could reach the population that you hadn't reached before. That's part of marketing, is understanding who's out there, how you connect to them, and how do you get the word to them about what you do. Marketing isn't just, you know, well, we got a Facebook page, so we're just waiting for the money to roll in. It's not. Every nonprofit can be marketed in a lot of different ways, just like every nonprofit can raise money a lot of different ways. All right, I'm trying not to overwhelm you with details, but there are other things that you have to think about. I told you that it's unlikely you're going to get a grant to pay for space, for buying a building. You might get some support in order to rent space. You might get some volunteer space. You might share a space with another nonprofit. And there are buildings and resources where you share the back office space and you can work together. Midtown Tech Hive, where Candid is one of those kind of places. Maybe you need specific equipment for your nonprofit and you're looking to get support for that. Some funders don't like to pay for that, but maybe there's equipment that you can share. Maybe you can get it donated. I'm always curious as to who makes the things that we need, who makes the clothes, the computers, or the materials, or, you know, gets the food that we might be able to get donated for the different things that we need to do. Some nonprofits need to worry pretty clearly about insurance. If you're working with children, you're doing something that involves a lot of transportation, you need to think about the insurance costs behind everything that you do. There's a nonprofit that's focused on risk assessment and checking on risks. The Ohio Association of Nonprofit Organizations, or OANO, can help a lot of the times in finding what kind of insurance and what buying plans and who provides insurance for specific nonprofits. They also can help with a lot of those logistical things if you're interested. They're a membership group for all the nonprofits in the state of Ohio. Human resources, do you have people that are going to be hiring? Do you have a policy manual? Do you have a structure of how your companies, you know, once you start to get staff, you need to have a way of managing that staff. You don't want to be unfair about how things are happening. And the thing is, a nonprofit, you know, I've showed you that long list of things that you need to do to get nonprofit status. That doesn't mean you're done with the reporting. You have to file with the IRS at least a postcard testifying to your existence every year. And if you start to bring in money, if you are changing, you have to file the 990. You have to file requests for fundraising in different states. If you're fundraising in more than one, you have to say, I'm going to fundraise in Ohio, but you know, this other state, I'm going to fundraise there. I need to get permission to do that as well. There's all sorts of reporting that goes on, including if you get funds. You know, somebody has to write those reports to the grant makers or you won't get funds again from them. So that's a lot of work. Nonprofits are a lot of work. And part of this class is, if you're not ready for this, what could you do instead? You could volunteer or find employment in a similar structure, a similar organization. You could serve on a board to maybe for an organization that does similar kind of things. Instead of starting a nonprofit, you can also just simply offer services. You don't have to go through and get that legal status where you can get donations. you could have a partner, which is known as a fiscal sponsor. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about fiscal sponsorship here, but if you decide you don't want to become a nonprofit, you just want to stay an individual doing this work, and you want to still see about getting grants and donations that can be tax deductible, you can have an arrangement with another existing nonprofit so that you partner with them, they get the grants or donations, and they pass that along to you. But there's, an agreement, a contract that you would have to make this happen. The advantages of starting a nonprofit are pretty, pretty detailed. There's tax exemption, deduction, there's eligibility for public and private grants. You have a formal structure, meaning if this organization fails, it's structured based around the board and the mission of the organization. So if this fails and you go bankrupt, individuals are not held personally responsible as long as they've been doing their job, keeping the organization going. It's only the institution that's doing that. And we have a question from Amanda. She's asking, how do you apply for fundraising in multiple states? You fundraise online via Kickstarter. It's more about, are you doing this legally for the states that you're working in? Kickstarter is something that happens, online, and online is kind of a mysterious world where anybody could be anywhere. But I don't know how the law works in each of the states about registration for fundraising, but you might want to look that up if you see that a lot of your gifts are coming from out of state. Sometimes it's really dependent on where you are located, but a lot of the times it's where you're pulling the money from. You just want to be in good standing. So check out the state websites for the different places where you're getting funding. Disadvantages of starting a nonprofit is that it costs money. It costs money to start it. It costs money to file with the IRS. It costs money to keep it going. And oftentimes that money comes from you, comes from the person that is starting it, or donations that are not tax deductible from people that want to support you. It's a lot of paperwork to get it started. 501c3 is a lot of paperwork. The grant requests, writing letters, keeping in good standing with the state and with the federal government. Those are all parts of the paperwork. And then you are never really, one person is never really in charge of the organization because you share it with the board of directors. Oh, and by the way, much of what I was telling you about that you have to file with the IRS, and if you file nationally, like the 990, for example, that's a public document. So if you want to try and hide how much you're getting paid, you work for a nonprofit and you're the highest paid person, you're going to be on that 990. People are going to know exactly how much you're getting paid. So keep in mind that this is a disadvantage. And if you're still not sure, and thank you for SCORE sharing answers to a lot of these questions that are coming in. If you're still not sure, I want to tell you about a tool that we have, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and share instead the website of Candid. So I'm going to go to the Candid website, and I'm going to tell you how I got to this place. So candid.org is the website. That's our website. And it looks like this, a lot of gold on it. But up here at the top right is a little thing called Candid at a Glance. And I want to draw your attention to that because it's the easiest way to get around on our website. You click on Candid at a Glance, you see all these options. And the one I want to draw your attention to is called Candid Learning. Candid Learning is where we have all of our training classes and all of our assistance for people that are looking to learn more about how to do things. So Candid Learning is this section of the Candid website. And I'm going to point out a few things on here, but the one I want to point out first is in the resources section. It's called the Nonprofit Startup Resources. You're starting a nonprofit and you want additional assistance. This Nonprofit Startup Resources page has a bunch of information about resources for each region, whatever state that you're starting a nonprofit in. And then it also has what's called a nonprofit startup assessment. This is 68 questions that are just simply on the different topics of any nonprofit, the things that you need to make sure that you have an answer for. And some of them are quite simple. Do I have enough money? Do I have an idea? Which of the following best defines your service area? I'm going to do it on a community level. After you complete this, after you complete any of these sections, you are able to then go and see the insights and resources that these sections tell you. It tells you whether or not you need to learn information, whether you need to do some more work before you feel fully informed, or whether you seem to be on track with what you need to do. It's a great way to get feedback about starting a nonprofit without it gives you all the different things that you could be worrying about, and it gives you them in a way that you could manage and you could learn more. It gives you recommendations on where to learn more. It gives you details about what you should expect for different things. And you can take it, you can download it, you can take it several times, and you can see how well you're doing and what you need to work on. This is, as I said, in the Candid Learning section, learning.candid.org, or if you go to Candid at a Glance, choose Candid Learning. The resources, nonprofit startup resources are here. There's also some great books about starting a nonprofit that are available for free if you want to learn more there. But I also draw your attention to the training section, including the specific stuff that you can take self-paced. You can take, we regularly offer it as a webinar. If you're looking to see all the different trainings that we offer, you can do that, or the most popular ones in different subject areas. So if I go to most popular trainings and pull this up, it's being a little slow today. It'll give me all these different trainings that you might want to take, and it will take you through where you can search them based on the topic that you want to learn, based on the location, and most of them are available online from anywhere. And many of them, or nearly every one of them, is free. So take a look there. There's a lot about fundraising. There's a lot about managing and starting a nonprofit, including a recorded version of this that you might want to review. You'll get this specific one, but you might want to take a look at it. All of these are free for you, and hopefully you will be able to get those. Looking over here, and I think there's some questions that have come in. You're registered but not a 501c3. Can you still hold programs and events until the 501c3 is finished? Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of nonprofits are in the early stages. Sometimes they don't even get the 501c3, but they're still fundraising. You have to know that the tax exempt status, until you are officially 501c3, you won't be able to offer that to anyone. So a lot of people don't care. I mean, I'll give a donation and I won't think I'm going to deduct that on my taxes, especially since the law has changed recently, and you have to give an awful lot to get that to make a difference. But yeah, you can certainly do that. So what's next? The Nonprofit Startup Assessment Tool is that resource I showed you. Intro to Fundraising Planning might be a good place to think about all the different ways you can fundraise for your organization and how to plan it. But essentially, that's all I have for you today. And I'm hoping that you will take advantage of our resources. Again, my email address is david.holmes@candid.org. If you go to candid.org, the website, you will be able to go into the Candid Learning site and learn a lot about all the different elements of starting a nonprofit. Take the Nonprofit Startup Assessment Tool, get used to the idea of the things that you need to keep track of, and pay attention to the kind of services that are offered by other organizations. SCORE mentoring is a fantastic way to move forward with your nonprofit. And they can help you with a lot of the management elements of the nonprofit, which are very prominent. And it's not easier to start a nonprofit than it is to start a business. So I'm hoping that you will pay attention to these. And if you need to reach out to us, I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have on candid.org a Ask Us feature where you can chat with us or send us an email, and we will get you the answers to any of the questions that you have about trainings, about other things that you might be able to help. If we can't answer it, we'll refer you to somebody that can. So that's my presentation. Anita, anything else that you want to talk about?
No, it's wonderful. I think, again, Candid is such a wonderful resource for anybody who's thinking about a nonprofit or even has a nonprofit, and wants to learn more about what you can do with your nonprofit. So um, I recommend going to their website and taking advantage of all those tools that are available.
Yeah, and we try to update a lot of the, especially the statewide resources. If you take a look there for the state of Ohio, you'll find places you can get legal assistance. Find the Ohio Association of Nonprofit Organizations and other places that will help you out in the long run. And you may think, I don't need it right now. It's going to be there. So you can go there and find it.
Right, right. So fantastic. So thank you very much, David. That's been a
Thank you,
wonderful
Nita.
presentation, and we're delighted that you came and spoke, and also delighted to our clients who will no doubt benefit not only today, but long term if you take advantage of everything you heard today. So.
And if you have any questions, please do reach out and we'll see you again.